What did Trump do to get the weapons flowing? He created a loan system. They're sitting on 10 to 12 trillion dollars of critical minerals in Ukraine. They could be the richest country in all of Europe. I don't want to give that money and those assets to Putin to share with China. If we help Ukraine now, they can become the best business partner we ever dreamed of. That 10 to 12 trillion dollars of critical mineral assets could be used by Ukraine and the West, not given to Putin and China. This is a very big deal how Ukraine ends. Let's help them win a war we can't afford to lose. Let's find a solution to this war. But they're sitting on a gold mine. To give Putin 10 or 12 trillion dollars of critical minerals that he will share with China is ridiculous.
This is my video update on this Tuesday, midday, June the 11th. Wow, time is flying. June is going by quickly. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with our favorite U.S. Senator, Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, on Face the Nation, saying that Project Ukraine is a gold mine. It is a gold mine. That is why we cannot hand it over to Putin and to China. Can't hand it over to Putin because it is an absolute gold mine. Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham. Panicking. He is panicking, and he is saying the quiet parts out loud. Yeah, it's absolutely about resources, or a part of Project Ukraine is absolutely about resources. $12 trillion in minerals and resources. They say that 10 of those $12 trillion is in minerals and resources is located in the eastern part. And that is the part that Russia controls. That's gotta be pissing off Lindsey Graham in a big, big way. So Lindsey Graham was also the senator that said about a year ago that Ukraine is a great investment. He was meeting with Elensky in Kiev. He said it's the best investment the United States could ever make. He also said it was great that Russian soldiers were dying. He said that as well. And I believe it was also Lindsey Graham that said Ukraine is going to fight the Russians until the last Ukrainian. I think he also said that as well. He's also talked about how Ukraine is all about freedom and democracy and stuff like that. Now he's coming out and saying, yeah, just forget about the freedom, democracy stuff. We want the resources. We want those resources. You know which country has even more resources? Like a lot more? Russia. Yep. Russia has a lot more resources. A lot more wheat, a lot more grain, oil, gas, minerals. Has a whole lot more resources than Ukraine. And that was the plan, wasn't it? Let's get our hands on Ukraine. Lindsey Graham and all of his neocon buddies. Let's get our hands on Ukraine, and then we can use Ukraine to get our hands on the real big prize. That's Russia. So yeah, the plan definitely is about getting Ukraine's resources. The plan is definitely about, or was about, getting Russia's resources. The plan was absolutely about regime change in Russia. There was a geopolitical play as well. There was getting to Russia or balkanizing Russia and then getting to China. That was also part of the plan. A lot of things going on. But that was Lindsey Graham talking about the money aspect to it all. And you know that all the big companies that were promised all these riches, not only from Ukraine, but also promised all these riches when they were able to sink their teeth into a balkanized Russia. You know that they're going to the Biden White House, and they're going to Lindsey Graham, and they're saying, bro, you promised us a lot of money, a lot of wealth. What are you going to do about it now that that Project Ukraine is falling apart? This is what you promised us. Now what? So Lindsey Graham is sweating. The Biden White House, I'm sure, is sweating. That's why they want to get their hands on the $300 billion. pay off some of these promises that they made. Give them a little bit of something, right? We couldn't get you guys the 12 trillion from Ukraine or the 50 trillion in Russia, but here's 300 billion maybe in Russian frozen assets. Is that all right? Oh boy. Anyway, Lindsey Graham, shake and bake coffee today, the famous shake and bake. Freddo espresso. So here's a chart actually of all the minerals in Ukraine, which is on Twitter and on Telegram. I don't know if you guys can make it out. All of the minerals that Lindsey Graham wants to get his hands on. Rock salt and silver and coal and gold and copper, oil, lithium. Remember the Nirvana song, Lithium? What did Kurt Cobain know back then? Yeah. So that's the chart, which has all of the minerals in Ukraine. And a lot more minerals and resources in Russia. Because every time they say that Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe, that's a myth. Russia's where it's all at. That's where all of the wheat and the grain is at. It's in Russia. Ukraine too, but I think Ukraine is like it's either number 3 or number 7 on the list of wheat and grain producers and exporters. Russia, that's the big player, or that is one of the big players. It's like either number 1 or number 2. So yes, they wanted to get their hands on Ukraine because it's a gold mine, but their real goal, their real prize was to get their hands on Russia. Regime change it and balkanize it. So from Lindsey Graham, saying the quiet parts out loud, we go to the Washington Post. And they put out an article with the title, U.S. lifts weapons ban on Ukrainian military units. The decision was made following a State Department review of the Azof brigade, a one-time militia, now part of Ukraine's National Guard. A one-time militia? Aren't you missing a word there, Washington Post? A one-time militia, now part of Ukraine's National Guard. I think between one-time and militia, you're missing a word that should be inserted there. And I don't really agree with the one-time. It used to be a mustache man militia, but now it's just part of the National Guard. So the Washington Post is reporting that after a thorough review, Ukraine's 12th Special Forces Azov Brigade passed Leahy vetting as carried out by the U.S. Department of State. The agency said in a statement to the Washington Post on Monday, referring to legislation that bans military aid to units that are implicated in human rights violations. The State Department added that it found no evidence of such violations committed by Azov. Ukrainian officials treated the lifting of the ban as a top priority during their lobbying efforts, the Washington Post reported. So that's why the Azov guys were traveling to the U.S. and the U.K. over the past couple of months is to lift this weapons ban. I guess that's what's going on here. And the ban has been lifted after the Azov guys were vetted. They went through a thorough vetting, very, very thorough vetting process to make sure that there was no mustache man affiliation and there were no human rights violations. And when this thorough, very thorough vetting took place, the weapons ban was lifted. Yeah, so the Azov guys, they've been getting weapons for the past 10 plus years. I mean, if you believe that the Azov has not been receiving weapons from the United States, well then I've got a shake and bake coffee to sell you. Of course they've been getting weapons over the past 10 years and definitely over the past 2 years as they fight the proxy war with Russia. So why? Why is the Washington Post reporting this? That's my question. We know they've been getting weapons. We know they've been getting money. Yes, it's been on the down low. Maybe it's off the books. It goes to the Ukraine military, and then the Ukraine military funnels it to Azov. But why are you reporting this? Why do you feel, State Department, that you have to come out and admit that the Azov is getting weapons? Because that's what this story really is. It's an admission that the Azov is getting weapons. Damage control, perhaps. Maybe they're trying to get ahead of the story. Maybe they're reporting on this because eventually a report's going to come out talking about how Azov has been using U.S. weapons to fight the Russian military. And so they want to report that the Azov guys have been thoroughly vetted and it's all good. I don't know. What do you guys think? Why do you think they're reporting on this? Why now? Why do they feel like there's a need to tell everybody that Azov has been vetted and there are no mustache man connections to the Azov guys? So it's okay for them to have weapons. That's what I think it is. I think this is just a media narrative type of operation. Damage control. Get ahead of the reports that are going to say that the Azov brigade, the Azov battalion, they've been using U.S. weapons in the conflict with Russia. So let's start cleaning this up. Let's start cleaning this whole thing up. That's my take on this story. So if you're Germany, here's a question for everybody. If you're Germany, if you're Olaf Scholz, and the sun is coming down this way, so let me sit this way. So if you're Germany and you've suffered, you're Scholz and the Greens, and you suffered a humiliating political defeat in the EU elections, what do you do? What do you do? You try to distance yourself from Project Ukraine. You try to distance yourself from Elensky, right? That's what you do. You change course. You pivot because you understand the message that the people are sending you. And you pivot away from that which is doing you so much damage. That's what you do. But no. If you're Olaf Scholz, you don't pivot. No. You invite Elensky to Germany. You host Elensky. You meet with Elensky. You get Elensky to give a speech to the Bundestag. That is what Olaf Scholz and his ruling coalition have done. This should be my cloud world. Oh my God, this should be my clown world. Yep, Elensky is in Germany. He doesn't want to go home, by the way. Elensky does not want to go home. Why don't you want to go home, Elensky? I don't want to go home right now. Now is not a good time to go home. Podolyak, grab my suitcase. Let's go to Germany. Yes, Mr. President. Yeah, Elensky doesn't want to go home. He's in Germany. He is in Germany to take part in the Recovery Conference, which is a meeting that is going to take place so that Scholz and Zelenskyy can talk about the money that Ukraine needs for reconstruction, including energy infrastructure. So more money. They're going to talk about giving more money to Elensky. And then he's going to speak to the German parliament. Yup. And he's also going to visit a military base where Ukrainian soldiers are being trained. The very reason, the very symbol and the reason for Scholz and the Greens' defeat in the EU elections, they invite to Germany the very next day. They host in Germany the very next day. What Scholz should have done is he should have called Elensky's office and he should have said, now is not the right time for you to come to Germany. I understand that this conference may have been planned weeks or months in advance, who knows, but if I was Scholz, I would be like, look, Zelenskyy, cancel your trip to Germany. Now is not the right time. We just got spanked in the EU elections. Do not come to Germany. That's what I would have done if I was Pirate Scholz. Oh, boy. So, yeah, Elenskyy in Germany. Der Spiegel is reporting, citing government sources, that the German government and Elenskyy, they're very disappointed. The word that Spiegel uses is bitterly disappointed by China's decision not to participate in the summit in Switzerland on Ukraine. The UN Secretary General also canceled his participation in the Switzerland Peace Summit. I'm going to talk about the Switzerland Peace Summit in my clown world, by the way. Yep, they're bitterly disappointed that China is not going to show up. So, talking about the EU Parliament elections, I didn't mention yesterday in my video that the Austria Freedom Party, which is a party that is for ending the conflict in Ukraine, for negotiations in Ukraine, for staying neutral. They want Austria to remain a neutral country. They're not so hot on the European Union. Some people may say they're anti-EU, but the Freedom Party in the EU Parliament elections yesterday ended up in first place. They became the #1 party. And there are going to be elections in Austria, I believe, in September. And it looks like the Freedom Party is positioned to win those elections. So that was a big event, a big outcome of the EU Parliament vote from Sunday. They had 25.4% of the vote, the Freedom Party of Austria. And another story from the EU Parliament elections. This is the feel-good story of the week. Without a doubt, this is the feel-good story of the week. Comes out of my home country of Cyprus. So in Cyprus, a YouTube influencer, independent, zero political party affiliation, decided to run for the EU Parliament. Fidias Panayotou, 24-year-old YouTuber. He has something like 4 or 5 million subscribers. I don't know if his channel is active or has been active over the past couple of years, but he got YouTube fame from putting up videos which were like, I guess the best way to describe him was kind of like the Mr. Beast of Cyprus. He would create like joke videos and prank videos and feel-good videos, stuff like that. So he became a very popular YouTuber in Cyprus, very popular. And he decided to run for the parliament in the EU elections. And Fidias, completely independent, zero party affiliation, ended up in third place. He is going to the parliament. He got a seat in the parliament. He had 19.4% of the vote. He got 19.4% of the vote, not far behind from the two big mainstream parties, the neoliberal right and the neoliberal left parties. The pro-EU neoliberal mainstream parties, they actually lost support. They were still in first and second place, but they actually lost support. Fidias came in third place, completely independent, completely on his own, and zero party affiliation. And he actually beat out the other mainstream political parties in Cyprus that ended up in fourth and fifth and sixth place. Some of them even lost seats. Some of the mainstream political parties which had a seat in the parliament actually lost their seat in the parliament. Fidias picked up a seat in the EU parliament. He threw a party at the main square in Nicosia. You know the square where I sometimes do videos where I call it the spaceship, the alien spaceship square, which is just a lot of cement, and the benches which look like something out of the movie Aliens. Well, he had a party, an event after his third place finishing in the election. He's going to be heading to the EU Parliament. This is the way forward. This is the way forward. Completely independent, zero affiliation with any political party. He ran his own campaign on the back of his popularity and his social media platform and presence. And he got third place, a very strong third place finishing, 19.4%. He is heading to the parliament. Bravo, Fidias. Good for you. An incredible story out of Cyprus. And the mainstream political parties in Cyprus, they are scratching their head. They're like, what is going on here? How did this happen? How did this happen? How did this happen? If you're watching my videos, you would know how this happened. If you were watching my videos or watching the Duran, you would know how this happened. But this is the way forward. This is the way forward from Cyprus. Now, to be fair, campaigning in Cyprus is probably a lot easier given the size of the country, and it's pretty easy to get around than if you were independent and you had to campaign on your own in a bigger country like France or Germany or something like that. But still, it can be done. It can be done. You can be completely independent, completely on your own, and if you have a big enough platform, and if you have the will and the desire, you can do it. So that is the feel-good story for the week. Let's do some more news before we get into our clown world. Lavrov at the BRICS foreign ministers event in Russia, in Nizhny Novgorod. He once again stated that BRICS is developing a platform for transaction in national currencies. Goodbye US dollar for the BRICS. Speaking at a meeting of the economic bloc's foreign ministers in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, Lavrov said BRICS was actively working to implement the decisions of the Johannesburg summit last year, particularly when it comes to improving the international monetary and financial system, developing a platform for settlement in national currencies, in mutual trade. And yesterday I talked about the Russian warships and the Russian submarine that is in the Caribbean, in Cuba, off the coast of Cuba at this very moment. I talked about this, the naval exercises that are going to be taking place. And we got word that the US Navy is going to shadow the Russian Navy in the Caribbean. So they are going to be keeping a very close eye on what Russia is doing. But not that close of an eye, because the word is that the submarine, I believe is the Kazan nuclear submarine, appears to have been lost. The US Navy has lost the Russian nuclear submarine. They can't find it. They cannot find it. Update, US on full alert. The hunt is on. US Navy P-8 Poseidon sub Hunter is flying over the coast of Florida in search of the rogue Russian submarine. The Russian Navy nuclear submarine Kazan is 66 miles away from the Florida coast, equipped with 4,500 km calibre M missiles off the coast of Cuba. New Cuban Missile Crisis. The hunt for Red October. The hunt for the Kazan submarine is on. 66 miles from the Florida coast. Doesn't feel so good, does it, to have the Russian military so close to your country, does it? Biden, Blinken, Kirby. No, it doesn't feel so good. So an update on the F-16 saga. This is coming from Lord Bibo. Some F-16 fighters will be likely based in Romania and Poland. Looks like a legal trick to base F-16 jets outside of Ukraine, so the jets will be based in Romania, fly to Ukraine to load missiles, and then fly for combat missions and fly back to Romania. Some of them will remain in those centers where our pilots and aviation personnel are trained. There is a certain number of aircraft that will be stored at safe air bases, not in Ukraine, so that they will not be targets here. And this will be our reserve in case necessary to replace faulty aircraft during routine maintenance. That is so that we can constantly have a certain number of aircraft in operation, which will correspond to the number of pilots we will have. There will be more aircraft in Ukraine, said the Chief of Aviation of the Air Force Command, Sergei Golubtsov. So the trick is that the F-16 fighter jets will be in Romania and Poland, mostly in Romania. They'll fly to Ukraine to load up on missiles. So they'll fly to an air base in Ukraine to load up on missiles. Then they're going to fly their combat mission. And then they fly back to Romania. And this means that Romania is not a target for Russia. Is that how they're rationalizing this? That's the trick? I don't think it works like that, Romania and Poland. I really don't think it works like that. Anyway, interesting workaround. Is that what this is? A workaround? Okay. That's an update on the F-16 soap opera. And let's do a clown world. How am I doing on time? Yeah, let's wrap this video up and do a clown world. And this clown world, we circle back to the Swiss Peace Summit. And the word is that the New Zealand Prime Minister, he is saying, nope, I am not going to be going to the peace summit. But according to New Zealand, this does not mean that they do not support Elensky, Project Ukraine, and the peace summit. They're going to be sending, one sec, to show how much they support the peace summit. New Zealand is going to be sending, in place of the Prime Minister, the Corrections Minister, Mark Mitchell. I don't know who Mark Mitchell is. He's the Corrections Minister. So instead of the Prime Minister, the Corrections Minister is going to be heading to Switzerland for the Peace Summit. The Peace Summit. Badoliak. Mark Mitchell be coming to Peace Summit? Yes, Mr. President. So what's the clown world in all of this? Well, the clown world in all of this is coming from a Twitter X post from Russian Market. Wait a moment. So all the losers of the EU elections will be traveling to the Swiss-Ukraine Peace Summit to celebrate their defeats there. Macron, Scholz, Ursula, Elensky. Is this some sort of Rejects Club summit there? That is a great Twitter post, Twitter X post. It's the summit of losers, right? The Swiss Peace Summit is the summit of losers. World leaders that are going to be attending the Swiss Peace Summit are pretty much all the losers. There's no other way of looking at it. Scholz, Sunak, Zelenskyy, Macron. Is Macron going to go? I imagine Macron is going to go. Macron. That's the Peace Summit. They should change the name to the Swiss Losers Summit. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch. Football 24 to pick up some football merch. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.